Oh, baby. Man, we haven't done one of these in forever. Like an old hat, though, guys. What is up, everybody? Welcome to the DNVR show. It's not just any DNVR show, a very special emergency podcast version as Jamal Murray signs his max extension. This emergency pod segment is brought to you by Indeed. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your job more visibility at Indeed.com/ALLCITY. That's Indeed.com/ALLCITY. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. It just came across the wire about 15, 20 minutes ago. We've been waiting for it. I feel great, fellas, because I said last week that it was either going to happen this week or next.
Oh, I see.
Right at the buzzer, right on Saturday in the afternoon, it comes through. I got the fellas with me. I got Superstar Dev in the house.
Oh, man, it feels to be good, be back. And also, it's breaking news. I had to get on if it was some breaking news. I had to be here.
Man, our guy Dev, man, he's there when you need him. Will Jamal Murray do the same? We'll find out. And over here, D-Line.
I was in the very deep off season of my weekend. I was like napping. I was, I was doing a little handiwork. I didn't think that there was anything to think about with the Denver Nuggets. And lo and behold, we're back, baby. We're the on season.
You know what's funny? So he signs the deal. The terms are 4 years, $208 million. It is a max. I am told that the max contract carries no incentives, no contingencies, nothing like that. This is just a straight up 4-year max deal. I'm not even sure if they were able to offer him anything else, but it is a 4-year extension on top of this year. The Nuggets are absolutely locked in. Lots of perspectives on the timeline, lots of perspectives in the chat. But as we kind of go through it, Dev, what was your first thought when you saw it come through?
Well, finally, really was my first initial reaction. There's been a lot of, I would say, a little bit of a overblown reaction of like, is this even going to get done? And it seems like that was never in question. Now that you just started talking, like not having any type of incentive whatsoever, that part is interesting in its entirety, just because that's kind of who Jamal Murray is. Like, he's a max contract player, but the accolades and the other things that follow behind it aren't there. Besides the championship, which is the most important one.
It's a big one. Yeah.
Tough one to gloss over.
All he's ever done for us is the exact one thing we ever wanted.
You need him to do.
But nothing else, really, to be honest.
Yeah, right. Well, what has he done for us lately? Like,
yeah,
pretty, whatever, you know.
Yeah, somewhat recently. But D-Line, what about you, man? When you saw the news, were you kind of was any part of you surprised that it happened like today on Saturday?
I was unprepared, but now that I'm piecing things together, this doesn't surprise me at all. Like, there's a national murmur of the front office and the coaching staff not seeing eye to eye.
Oh, old news, in my opinion, a little bit old news. I mean, obviously,
I know.
Still there, but
my point being that it's like they're like, shut up. We're not have problems.
Great take.
It to me feels like Jamal's camp kind of wanted that story to be out there. That like. Hey, listen, the coaching staff loves me. Malone loves me. Like, why we're not seeing eye to eye here.
Yeah.
And they get it done. So whatever means all is fair in love and war and in contract negotiation. The right outcome happens.
Yeah.
Jamal Murray is going to be a Denver Nugget for a very long time. And it's going to be great, man. He's an amazing player.
So I love that take, D, because I hadn't thought of it. And I think, first of all, I think you're wrong, but I love the thought process, this idea that like Jeff Schwartz, super agent, that he was like, you know what? Hey, dude. Zach Lowe, what do you think of this tension, man? What do you think of this tension with the guys?
I don't think it's I can envision a world where Zach Lowe's talking to somebody who knows tangentially. He's like, what's taking so long? And they're like, I don't know. We want to sign. Malone wants us to sign.
All right.
Front office isn't signing. Like
I'll tell you, I'm going to squash this right now. It is a great theory. I love it. I know that is not the process.
Okay. All right. Listen,
but I love the theory. I'm telling you, I love the theory.
I saw Dev. Dev thinks it's true too.
It's a good theory. It's not more so of like any like conspiracy or anything, but it's like the timing is perfect, and that's what it's been with Jamal. His timing is always perfect. There has been some tension. It's now national. There's no better time than right now than to lock this in and just say, hey, we have our core here. We have our future like locked in. So like he's here for the next 5 years. That'll put him at like 13 years in the league. I mean, he could retire a Nugget, like, but the timing is just so perfect of, hey, this is our guy. This is our group. We have the best duo in basketball right now. We're going to make sure that our future looks bright. So I think that the timing's great. I'm not saying it's a conspiracy, but I'm saying that the timing is just great for this to happen.
Well, what I'll say is this, is I don't think that it worked the way that it was framed, but it is possible that, like, when conversation picks up, it's like, well, we got to do something to kind of show. And I think that part could be real, even though I don't think there's somebody pulling the strings, right? I think it's just more the circumstances.
Well, listen,
I
don't mean to imply that there's a deep state conspiracy happening.
Yeah.
I just think that, like, people were probably starting to get a little vocal about, like, why something hadn't happened yet. That's all.
So here's what I'll say. By the way, it's my second favorite theory I've seen this week. The first one, I actually saw this on Reddit, which I hadn't been on in a while. I hop on Reddit and somebody said Zach Lowe, his source is probably Adam Mares. And I was like, I love that. That's how I am viewed. That Zach Lowe's number one trusted source when reporting on a team is myself. So
talking about the Nuggets, that's not.
Well, I'm saying a guy like Zach Lowe, of course, I'm well sourced. I'm not saying that. I'm saying a guy like Zach Lowe would not take somebody else's word to report it. He would go to the source to confirm a story like that. So that's why I thought that was so funny. But nonetheless, it's neither here nor there. I do think that this played out to its logical conclusion. And I've said this, when they didn't sign him immediately in June, right? When they first, or maybe it was early July, whenever it was that the window opened, you thought, okay, they're going to go through the Olympics. And then when he gets back, they'll do it at some point after that. And there's really no incentive for Denver to have done it on day one when he got back from Canada versus right before media day. The only reason would be distraction. But I think that there were probably a handful of reasons, maybe health, approach, conversations, just different things about getting him in to say, like, hey, this is a big deal. No player, to my knowledge, and I could be wrong, fact checkers check me on this, but I think I'm right on it. I don't think any player has ever signed 2 max contracts without ever making All-NBA or an All-Star game. So to think like that Denver would want to be like, hey, let's take our time on this. Let's make we check our boxes. There's a reason, like, it's very logical to think that, Denver's ownership, front office, and even coaching staff would say, hey, let's make sure everything's on the level before doing this. And I think it played out that way. And it might have happened a week from now or 2 weeks from now, but it could be that it moved up of just hey, there's a story out here. Let's just show them that we're not in turmoil here on the inside.
Yeah. Again, I think that the timing here is what matters. Like, if he signs the contract right off of the playoffs, they didn't win it the right way. Or they didn't win. They went out. It was just not that great. Then he plays in, for Canada. He does not play well for Canada. So I think that pushes the time frame a bit back.
Good.
That they wanted to push it back a bit more. And that's where Eric comes into play of, like, maybe that timing was perfect of, like, hey, let's just lock it in right now. I think it saved face for Jamal's side too, as well as, like, hey, it didn't work out for Canada, or you didn't play up to, like, your caliber. But we believe in you. We're going to back you because, he has time and time again. He's shown that he's going to show up. He's the perfect running mate for Jokic. And we know what it looks like when them two are on. He's relatively healthy. He's coming into a season that is going to be high expectations for him. So, like, why not just solidify that, get the core in there? He comes in with, like, hey, I'm going to have high expectations. He's going to have to play up to that. And now you have a contract to back it. You're a max player. You need to play like that.
Yeah. I have a couple things to report here. One, on the injury front, I am told that Jamal Murray is is in good health. That there's some of these lingering soft tissue things that had plagued him, even as far as the Olympics, that now look good. Everything checks out, and you should expect him to come into media day and training camp with a clean bill of health. This is not a thing where it's like, who knows, man? There's this lingering thing, but we're running out of time. It's all right. Team feels good about that aspect of it. Now, I think that of course, I have to imagine everybody in the organization, and I'm not speaking for these people, but I have to imagine even Nikola Jokic, even us, even people in the chat, even people on social media, even Brian Windhorst, if you listen to any of the national pods, everybody feels the same way, which is, we don't know if this is going to work out or not. It could, because we already saw it one time. But the truth is, I think Jamal now enters this season with an enormous amount of pressure, because cash is king in the NBA. Everybody knows what everybody else makes. You just signed your second max extension. The expectation from the team, not just the front office, who I think now their hands are tied. If he's bad, there's nothing you can do. You just write it out now if he's bad or if he gets hurt. But right now, the entire fate of the organization lies on Jamal Murray's shoulders. And I think it's very clear to him that that's the case. And so it's an interesting dynamic that it's great. You get your money, but now every loss, it's going to be like, well, what did Murray do today? And I think that's something that we haven't necessarily seen at any point in the Jokic era, that much pressure on another player.
Yeah, but I love that it's on Jamal. Pressure is like what he builds off of, and where he's at his best in stride. Like that's where he became like playoff Jamal and taking himself to that level and playing that much better. He is going to have to go through a season and be healthy. And speaking of the health, since you did mention it, that's the one thing that kind of not bothers me, but I wish that there was more to it where he came out and said, this is what was wrong with me. Because right now, all we've ever done is speculate, or we've kind of added that as an excuse, a built-in excuse, when he said, I'm fine, which he clearly didn't look fine. But again, if he's not playing well, then we're going to make that excuse for him. So I wish he came out and said, hey, this is what was wrong with me, so we could like point it to that. But now with the organization and everyone saying, hey, he's healthy, okay, now the expectations are you're healthy, you have a contract to back you, you have a lot to prove. Now it's time to prove it.
Yeah. Listen, I mean, like the expectation has already been there for Jamal. It's at the end of the day, what do you do? How do you not lock this guy up? You can't assume that you'll just get another Jamal through draft, through any other acquisition. Like this is a time where he actually has made his value somewhat in question, which is strange after what he was able to accomplish the season prior. And so it's like, if you felt strongly that you wanted to move off of Jamal, like this, you're selling low.
Right.
This is the place that the Nuggets franchise has found themselves through fate and luck and whatever. And, this is what you were given. And you sign Jamal and you think it's going to work. Maybe, I mean, it's shown it has before. So I understand like why there is some hesitance. I understand why Jamal has not instilled confidence in the fan base. But I mean, like I would love to hear a realistic other option for the franchise other than to go all in with the people that have done it before. And if it doesn't work, like it's not supposed to work for us. Like, I don't know what to say.
The gods are against us. This is the thing about sports, and really it's true in the NBA with roster building, is nothing's ever perfect. Like, oh, well, if this happened when he was on year 2 of a 5-year deal, okay, trade, what do you do? It just so happened that his injury-plagued season and having a bad playoffs and all that stuff coincided with the exact moment in time when Denver had to make a decision. I mean, if this extension would have come right after the finals in 2023, it'd have been like, give this guy a max, best deal ever. Like, there's no question fan base is on 100. But because it's coming on a little bit of a lull, things feel bad. But I will say, man, I looked this up. Denver last season, when they had Jokic and Murray healthy, won at a 62-win pace last year, a 62-win pace. And that, by the way, that number stretches back prior to that, even when they were healthy back in 2021. So we know, part of me you take a deep breath and say, Murray has deserved, in my opinion, all the criticism that has been thrown by us and by basically everybody in the media over the last 5-6 months. I think he deserves it. But at the same time, I think he also deserves the hope. And I actually feel like, even though there's always going to be the people that focus on the negative side, which is very pertinent and real, I feel like for me personally in this moment, it's an optimistic moment. It's a moment that feels like the season officially starts right now. Yeah. Because this has been lingering and hanging over the head. And right now I go, you know what, though? I don't want to move on emotionally or mentally from Jamal. He's our guy. He led us to the highest of heights. And this signifies we're back on that. And what's that meme? Our fate now lies on Jokic and Murray, same as it always was. And that's just how it feels.
It's so true. Like this era, this is the Jokic and Murray era. Like, I'm sorry, that's it. Yeah. Like, we're going to live, we're going to celebrate, we are going to die with this tandem. We'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what fate deals us. But this, like, even from a standpoint of strength in position in business, like, this is the only decision you can make. Yeah. You can't not pay him this. Somebody else would. There's Washington with, there's teams that like have to spend money. And somebody would pay him this amount of money. And, like, I just don't know how else. I don't know how else you go about it,
Did you listen, Dev, to the Michael Porter Jr. Austin Rivers podcast?
No,
you missed it.
I need to.
There was a really good part in there where Michael Porter Jr. talked about the pressure he feels because he knows he's on a max. And he's like, that there's just an expectation that everyone has. If you're making a max, you have to do this or that. And with Murray, I think it goes up because, again, it's a second max and it comes at this point in time where Denver feels like they're at a crossroads. Are they going to keep climbing and it's the golden era to continue, or is it kind of over? So I just like players talk about those types of things. And that's why I think it's such a big deal. And oh, by the way, they just added a guy that has several maxes himself under his belt, and Russell Westbrook, who's kind of playing a position. And I think that's a story too. Russ comes in making what, $2 million? Jamal comes in making about $55 million a year. Like that, whether you want it or not, that's a storyline.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that storyline. I'm glad you brought that one up too, because one of the big things about Russell Westbrook is how much he works, like how much of a worker he is. He's the first one in the gym. He's working the hardest in the gym. Jamal is going to have to work as hard as Russell Westbrook. And I mean, he has a contract to back it. And this is a guy that has seen what it looks like to be a max contract player. So I think that timing is going to be, good. And he has someone that has been like on the ups and downs. I love the Russell Westbrook signing. And like, this also makes sense. The thing that I'm a little bit confused on is when fans or just people are upset about this type of signing. Like I've been seeing, things on the timeline of like, this was dumb, this is an overpay. There was no other decision. Like they could not make another decision. What were they going with that? You're not just making trades just from scratch. Like you had to make that. And also it's Jokic's running mate. They are just so perfect together that you're not going to be able to get that type of timing with another player. Other teams aren't just going to give you these fantasy scenarios. So like you had to, go with what was in front of you, and Jamal has earned it. He's earned every single thing that we have talked about. He's earned the criticism. He's earned, what he like did with Canada. He earned, all these things, but he also earned this contract, and they made it happen.
Yeah. Let's get to some of these questions because I have a couple more things to say, but I think they're going to come up in the form of question here. Oh, do you have one last thing?
I was going to say, do we want to look at Jamal's stats?
Oh yeah. Let's look at his resume here. Brought to you by Indeed. When we do emergency podcasts, they are brought to you by Indeed. Check the resume by Indeed. You need to hire, you need Indeed. All right. Experience. Here we go. Last season, 21 points a game, 21.2 to be exact, 4.1 rebounds, 6.5 assists. And then you go to the finals, basically lifted those rebound and assist numbers. Career numbers, obviously a little below that, dragged down by his early part of his career. But what stands out to you here, D-Line, when you look at these numbers?
I mean, that's a good player. 21 points a game is nothing to sneeze at in the NBA. That's 20 points is the benchmark between good guy and top tier guy. And, he rises in the playoffs. We're seeing that there. He didn't even have a great playoffs by his standards because his standards are better than Michael Jordan had. So
that's right.
It's just, it's like, sports are weird, man. You have to just you have to at some point have these leaps of faith where you look at a person, a character, and you're like, is this a guy that I can reasonably see getting his life back on track, achieving the heights that I've seen him achieve in the past? Or is this somebody that is not worthy of my emotional investment? And I find Jamal to be very worthy of emotional investment. I do think he's going to, I think that he cares a lot about what his perception is. And I think
yes, he does. Yes, he does. I would call it, and it's a double-edged sword, right? I think that he sees everything. He can be a little bit sensitive, but at the same time, he's sensitive in the way that it motivates him, I think. So, I mean, I would not be surprised if he was a guy watching this very show or just on the timeline right now, kind of taking in the reactions.
Yeah. But so that being said, I think that I really do feel like he will be motivated to achieve that level. I don't think that he wants to be like Shaq looks at Rudy Gobert, like the worst player of all time because he got overpaid.
Right. That's exactly what happened. Rudy Gobert's a great player. The reason everyone hates him is because he's paid like this supreme all-timer.
That's what sets your value in people's eyes, is how much money do you make. It's a ranking system for people. So they're saying like, yo, you don't deserve that. Then you become overrated. That's how you become overrated in people's minds. So Jamal's got to live up to the contract. Like, he definitely earned it. Earned means like, hey, you're able to be seen in this light now. Now you got to show out when you're in the light. So up to you, man. And I think he will. So,
you know, the worst thing you can be is when you get a CBA rule named after you. The Allen Houston rule, the Stepien rule. Like, a team screwed up so bad by giving you a contract. There could be the Jamal Murray rule. You cannot get a second max if you have never made an All-Star or All-NBA. Like, Adam Silver's like, we have to make a rule to save teams from themselves. You don't want that to happen. Instead, you want to find success. So, Dev, tell me, how will we define success now that he's on a max contract?
Yeah, well, going back to like the resume,
sure.
I mean, if you go off of the finals alone, he earns this contract. If they would have signed this last year, right after that, no one would have said anything. And then you look at the numbers from last year. Yes, it's not to that level, but it's still a max contract type of stats that he was putting up last year. Mm-hmm. The only reason that we're not looking at it the same is because they did not win the championship. They did not go to the finals, which they were, pretty much there. Like, so winning is how you continue to shut up the haters, the way that you shut up the doubters. And they still have the MVP, the best player in basketball. Now you go back to elevating your game and taking it, a bit more serious. And I think that with all of this criticism, Jamal Murray is going to come in motivated, and that's with a max contract. Think about that aspect of it. You have your people that are backing you. You have your camp. You have your organization that says you are our guy, but you still have so much to prove this year. So this is a telling year for Jamal, and as long as you win, it doesn't matter about the All-Stars. It doesn't matter about the just play to that level. And I think that's how you measure like that success.
The wild thing about Jamal Murray is that it's like everybody's perception of him is right in some way.
Yep.
Like, he is as good as everyone says, and he is as disappointing as everybody says. And like, he's very obviously perceived currently to have had a very down year last year, but he set record numbers for himself in the season last year. He just didn't perform very well in the playoffs, and he wasn't like very readily available. But his level of play has shown to not have dipped. He scored 36 in the playoff. I mean, he just didn't. The problem that Jamal faced was that he was shut down from. He couldn't penetrate, like he was too slow. But he could score, but he got contained and he got eliminated by a couple of guards, and that's a no-no for a team.
Guys that we thought were his peers.
Yes, and that's a no-no for a player that is seen as the second, like the two-man game of Jokic and Murray does not work if Murray can't get his side of the equation going. So he didn't play well in those standards in the playoffs, but he also did play well in the playoffs. So it's fucking confusing, man. But like, this is our guy, and yes, like, let's have him feeling good. Let's have him feeling confident coming in, walking with a strut. Like, let's get cocky, jerky Jamal back that feels good and like wants to dunk it on you and me and everybody.
So to me, how I define a success, first of all, I think Denver has to win a title. You have Jokic, the best player in franchise history, one of the greatest players of all time. If you sign all these deals and you make all these moves, you don't win another one. To me, I look at it and I go, it would be a success up until this point because they do have one. But if you said from this point going forward, how do we know it was a successful contract? Because he would help them get another title. So I think that's one of them. And then for me, the other part is, we all have the buddy who maybe matured in some way a little bit later than we thought they would, but they matured, and then you almost forget it, and it becomes a part of their story. Yep. For me, maturity for Jamal is he has to be the lead by example guy that the team needs. You're getting a second max contract. You better be in the best shape, not in good shape. You better be in the best shape of anybody on the team. Work hard. You better be the most hardworking guy on the team. You need to. There's boxes that he has not, in my opinion, accepted, not even checked, hasn't accepted yet in his tenure, and he's still as great as he has been. But now going forward, success is, hey man, you can't be the 8th most in shape guy on the team on October when media day comes around. You got to be number one because that's what you're getting paid for.
See, And here's the other thing. Here's another way to look at it. Like, did he get a pay increase, or
Yes.
is he just by how much per year?
I mean, you're asking me off the top of my head, and
Okay,
I'm not
that's
sure,
fine.
but it's a meaningful amount. I believe
You got
it's
a
something like $15 million a year increase.
And is that because the max level of the
Yes.
max contract went up?
And the longer you're in the league, the higher that max can be. So
Okay.
so it's two things.
But he's getting relative to the cap the same hit that he was previously.
You're asking me that question, and I really
think,
don't know.
Okay, I understand. Like, I want to make sure, like, to me, you can look at this as though the Nuggets had a employee review with Jamal Murray.
Right.
And they brought him in. They had an opportunity to say all these things. And, like,
Yeah.
we still want you to continue being employed at our company.
Right.
We want you to, however, and this is an opportunity to say these things that you're saying, because it's awkward sometimes for me to bring them up out of nowhere. But, like, so I assume that this is what happened. They, like, really put it all out there. Like, we want to keep you on this team. And if what appears to have happened, which I think is correct, like, I don't think he's making more against the team cap. Like, he was still taking 25% or whatever it was, and so he's still taking 25%.
It's about, as Kale, actually, super producer Kale informs us, it's about 4 to 5% higher of a cap.
Okay, so he got a raise, so
and it's $13 million in annual value. So yeah,
so that is a raise. So that is, now that you give a raise, and you're saying, like, I need to see you improve, but, like,
right.
I want you to know that we are happy with you.
Yeah, you know where that improvement has to come, and this is, like, the biggest thing, and why I think Nuggets fans are so frustrated with Jamal. It can't only be in the playoffs. You cannot only hold it and save it to the playoffs. Like, you have to show it throughout the regular season. You have to be in shape to come into the year. You have to take the regular season a bit more serious, not only, for, like, all-stars and making a team and things like that, but, like, the team needs you to do that, and then it makes it easier in the playoffs where you're not having to flip a switch. And I think that that's where the frustration comes, because we've seen him at the top of the mountain. He's been the best that we have ever seen. It's probably going to be hard for him to ever get there. But if he is doing that throughout the regular season, now that changes the dynamic of the team and the way that you go into the playoffs. And then you don't have to be a riser. You just play to that element. So that's the biggest thing right now.
Yeah. All right, let's get to some of these questions here, because, like I said, some of them I know are talking points I wanted to get to anyway. So what do we got, Kale? The first one. All right, Yosemite Ham says, y'all think Jokic co-signed that he wants Jamal Murray locked in as his running mate? Look, I have not heard this directly. I don't know. All I know is that a franchise with a player like Nikola Jokic doesn't make any kind of crazy big moves without at least knowing how he feels about them. So whether he called and was like, hey, we're about to do this, is this cool? I think the organization knows how Jokic feels. Yeah,
and I think that we are. I mean, my perception is that the idea that Jokic is, like, turning into le GM, Yoke GM, and pulling the strings of this team is not the right way to look at it. It's just that they're looking at it like, hey, man, you're cool with this guy, right? Like, because we are very committed to you. Like, we just want to make sure. I'm sure that's what happens.
I mean, you could make the right move, but if Yoke hated it, then you made the wrong move. Then it's the wrong move. So, like I said, but I don't think that the organization has put Nikola in position to be the one making the decision, and I don't think that he has put himself in that position. He's just probably more, they know how he feels about it. What else do we have? Oh, and by the way, just let me say, like, we all know with Yoke and Murray, man, Dev, after the finals, it was those two in the pool. You know what I mean? Like, there's a team celebration, there's all this, but the peanut butter and jelly aspect of this, Yoke loves Murray, and I think knows what Murray's ceiling is. And I think he probably also knows when he doesn't play at that ceiling, what it costs him.
Yeah. And that's both on and off of the floor. Like, they have a connection. That is his guard. So you might as well accept it. The team has accepted it. And when he's playing to that element, everyone else accepts it. He just has to, play at that level.
Yeah. Sky Falcon 5 says, does this extension put Nuggets over second apron next season, and does it affect decision to re-sign AG? To be honest with you, I don't know on both accounts. I don't believe so, but I don't, off the top, this just went live and I'm not sure exactly how that's going to affect. Probably throughout this week on the show, we'll start to get into all the details and how all the little levers and mechanisms work. Nonetheless, the decision to re-sign AG is going to be one that is not a slam dunk. It is going to be one that probably requires some consideration.
Yep.
What's next? Melody is dead. Should we expect Jamal to play like a star player all the time now? In my opinion, just no question. I mean, all the time is tough.
Yes, of course.
Well, all the time is tough, but I mean, he needs to be prepared to play like an all-star player at all times. I mean, to me, when whatever Yoke gives you, that's what Murray needs to give you in terms of like his readiness to be at his best.
But you should have very high expectations of Jamal Murray. He's earned them. He's shown us how incredible he can be.
You make 400.
Dev said.
You make $400 million, man. It's not crazy to ask you to be great.
But he's been great. Like, so
yeah.
Be great again, dude.
Stormbless says, is it untradeable if anything goes wrong? Nothing's untradeable in this league, but it would be as close to untradeable. I mean, first of all, if you're talking injury, because he is now an injury-prone player, it's just, I'm not trying to be mean to the guy, but it is true. He is an injury-prone player. But on top of that, he has an injury history. So if he was injured, absolutely. But even if he just underperforms, I think that it becomes an Andrew Wiggins situation where it's like, yeah, he just isn't as good as we thought he could be consistently, and he never was that. What do you think, Dev?
Could you ask it one more time? Sorry.
What was the question? Yeah, he already took it off. What else we got, Kale? We had a couple more there. Did Jamal write a big thank you letter to Nikola? This is what I'm talking about, though, when I say that there's pressure when you get paid. First of all, it's fair. Everybody in the organization, everybody at ALLCITY owes Nikola Jokic a thank you letter. Like, I also have written a thank you letter to Nikola Jokic for the career that I have.
Dude,
but
my life is a thank you letter to Nikola Jokic.
It's so true.
Yeah. But there is something to, we should do something when it's all said and done. How much money he has gotten people. Like, that is like a cool thing, especially like we always talk about, like him winning and like doing this at a level without having an all-star. We should say how much money he has earned people throughout, because it has to be up there. Like with
oh my
the best
God, we have to do that
of all time.
Because then we could start this, and then people know that, and it becomes a recruitment tool that the Nuggets themselves are able to use.
Right.
You just put him like next to. He's going to be up there with LeBron. Like,
you know what I'm going to do? We're going to make this graphic, but we're going to make it as a PowerPoint slide that they can deliver to free agents.
Bruce Brown was once a cowpoke. He's now a ranger. That's all you need to know, or a rancher. What else do we have? Why did it take so long? I mean, guesses. We don't have to guess. I told you at the top why I believe that it took so long, because I think the team wanted to get a full look at him. You didn't want a Vlatko Čančar situation where you sign him and then immediately he gets hurt. So I think that there was a level of, hey, I know he's been dealing with soft tissue injuries for several months now. Let's see how those heal. Let's see his approach, and let's just get in a room to be able to have conversations with him. He's been around. And by the way, no small thing that he's been around as much as he has. You know, what other veterans are around? You know, it's really been Exhibit 10 guys. It's been two-way guys, and it's been Jamal Murray. And it's meaningful.
This is the biggest crime of last season, is that Jamal Murray did this last year. He was hanging out with the Summer League squad. We were like, oh
driving
my God.
His Lambo around the arena.
We're like, this is a brand new Jamal. They're working out with the Summer League squad guys. Like, the Summer League squad came to the DNVR bar and Jamal was with them. None of the other players were with them. We were like, hell yeah, he's locked in. And it didn't like fully play out. So hopefully this is the year.
Hopefully this is it. And then last one, of course, comes from Cedric Exquisite. Hope Jamal worth a max. Eric, what'd you get your hat at? I like, does anybody have any questions? And he's like, yeah, Eric, where'd you get your hat?
Yeah, I can see. I look great on the stream. I got it at Altitude Authentics, bro.
By the way, big sale this weekend at Altitude Authentics. Did you know that? This is like their end of year blowout sale today and tomorrow. So if you're looking
getting sponsored by Altitude Authentics?
No, but I just thought I would
make two advertisements for them. You know what? I like Altitude Authentics. You do go and buy for them.
By the way, Miroslav is getting ready to go live here in 9 minutes with his own Serbian corner. Of course, our weekend show here. So if you want to hear him say exactly what we said, but slower and with a thick accent.
Yeah, dude. And like way less interesting.
No way. I can't wait to hear him absolutely cook. Any final thoughts, Dev? We're going to talk about this all week, but we just want to do an emergency show. Any final thoughts?
Just congratulations to them. It finally happened. This is what was supposed to happen, and they have their core locked in there. So I think that this was a great thing for the organization. And I mean, it's time to redo this. Like, now you have to go after a championship, and you have the core to do that.
Yeah. D-Line?
Yeah, I'm with Dev. Like, you're
out of here. I'm with Dev. I'm ready to go.
Wait, did Dev leave a remote show early?
Yeah.
Holy shit. Some people are committed to the bit, and then there's Dev. Holy smokes, that is unbelievable. No other thoughts.
My last thought here is this is either going to be the moment we look back on where the golden era really takes off and extends, or it's going to be the end of the ride. And what pressure Jamal Murray has, but you know what? Pressure makes diamonds, and that's what makes sports so fun. I see both sides of it. To all the fans that are terrified about this signing, I get it. I totally get it, actually. To all the fans that are super excited and feel relieved and ready to go, I also get it. I'm a little bit more of that, I would say, at the moment than anything else. But everybody, thanks for tuning in to this emergency podcast presented by Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Thanks for hanging with us. Serbian Corner coming up next. Hit that like button on the way out.
We all silly like the mayor.